I'm grateful every time I get to listen to someone's story, especially someone who spends a significant amount of time sharing other people's stories. John Fuller, co host of Focus on the Family's daily broadcast. Not only that, he's vice president of the audio team at Focus on the Family. And whatever that actually means, maybe we'll find out today. John, how are you?
Oh, thank you, Justin. I'm doing well. And you and I both, I think, started in radio, but my goodness, the media landscape means the audio team does lots of video as well.
And your journey. So, can you take me to the moment where like radio was cool in your mind? Like, what was that? What was that first time?
I was like 9 years old, and I got a little Panasonic cassette recorder that had the one push record button feature. That was kind of cool. And I was recording kind of dinner conversations and such, but somewhere along the way, I started kind of playing announcer. And that became something I did a little more seriously as a teen, just playing around with it. But then in my early 20s, I got a chance to be involved in radio at a college radio station. I think you know what that can be like. And it was a nice, fun time, but I didn't know that that was going to be my career. I was pursuing photography, but somewhere in my mid 20s, radio became the thing, and I've so enjoyed it. What a ride it's been, and so much change, as I indicated.
When did faith like cross over with broadcasting for you? When was that
Yeah,
first time?
so I came to faith in Christ when I was a teenage boy, 15, 16 years old. And so I was growing in my faith, and I really was intrigued by Christian radio, but I didn't hear any Christian radio that I felt was like really good. So I just didn't pursue that until a door opened up and I heard that a radio station was starting up in a nearby community. And I applied, and I had some radio cred, and they talked to me and said, "Yeah, come join us." So I had the privilege of starting a station, and then it became two stations because we started the second one. Since my departure many years ago, they've grown to four or five stations. One of them is Spanish. They have an online presence. It's pretty cool to see the growth of a voice that is proclaiming truth and encouragement for people of faith.
What about focus on the family? Can you take me back? Like, did you walk into an
Yeah.
office one day? Did you meet somebody at a coffee shop? Like, how did that relationship start?
So I'm at the radio station in East Texas. I get a letter saying Focus on the Family's moving from California to Colorado, and we need some production staff on the radio side. And since you're in radio, if you know anybody. And I didn't have a lot of great production skills. That's kind of editing and fashioning the stories, but I did a lot of interviewing and a lot of management. And so when I applied, I got a call back saying, "Well, let's talk." And that started a journey for my wife and me to say, "Do we want to leave where we live here in East Texas, just literally around the corner from family and 20 minutes away from grandparents?" And her answer was, "If we don't go now, I'm not going to want to go." And so I pursued the job, and it opened up, and Focus moved here in 1991, here being Colorado Springs. And I joined just a few weeks later because we had a newborn baby that made the transition a little bit more tedious and cumbersome.
Since being in broadcasting and content creation, we'll say, right? Because you mentioned like technology, the way it's shifted, right? Multimedia, all that kind of stuff. Is it where it's at today, where you thought it would be when you started X number of years ago, or what's your take on that?
No, not at all. So, I mean, I envisioned being an on air DJ, playing music and kind of connecting people with the songs that I was listening to in the studio as it went on. I enjoyed the interview shows I was able to do with some frequency early on, and then on a regular basis after a number of years. Just getting in and exploring ideas and bringing something to the audience of note. I guess that was kind of the forerunner for what I got to do. I didn't come here to be on the air. I came here to be a producer for the show. So I wrote for Dr. Dobson back in the early days. I shepherded programs through the pipeline. I never would have guessed that the job would become so broad. I certainly didn't guess I'd be talking into a microphone again. I thought those days were gone. And I never would have guessed that in my 60s, there are eight 4K cameras looking at me during a studio interview for our main show. And then we have other studios where we do podcasts, and Those are even higher quality cameras, even tighter on me. Uh, I need makeup, Justin, and I never would have guessed I'd be putting makeup on to do my job.
I can think back with my dad listening to Christian radio and the conversations that take place on Focus. I mean, it is deep, deep stuff, whether secular or faith based, right? It's real conversation. Is that emotionally like tolling on? Like, you've got a strong spirit clearly about you. How do you guys do it every day? Get into these deep conversations with folks.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Thank you for the observation because we do try to make sure that some shows are light and encouraging and just kind of appear. Other shows, boy, you go deep because you're talking to a foster family and they're sharing the story about their child who ran away and they weren't sure where he was for 3 weeks and they finally found him and there were drugs involved and how do you parent that? How do you pick those pieces up? How do you move forward? And how does that story offer hope and encouragement to somebody? The story arcs, we're always looking for the best story and how to connect the story to the most people in the most powerful way. Is it emotionally tolling? Um, I, this is a weird thing to say. I'm a deep thinker. I'm a deeper feeler than I used to know. But I think it's actually energizing to be able to go in and, in the context of a one-on-one conversation or a small group conversation, if there are several people in the studio, we dial in. I'm an introvert, so we dial in, and that's enriching to me, and that's how I really like to roll. And so we leave the studio exhausted sometimes, but it's a good exhaustion. It was hard work, but we told a good story, and we'll do it again next time. So those are difficult moments sometimes, but they're also fully engaging. And I come home and I tell my wife about what we talked about. She loves that, by the way, and it's good. It's really a gift that I get to sit with somebody who's got a story. They tell it well. We convey it. What's impact in people's lives. It's a rich life I lead.
And focusing on family. So your take is you've got a unique perspective. What's your take on the current status of family? Like whether it could be United States, it could be globally, right? Those are different too. We think a lot
Yeah.
of times the U.S. is the only country in the world since we live here, but it's not. What's your take on that of holistically looking at the family right now?
So let me just quickly hit that Jim Daly, our president and our host for the main show, Jim often says back in the day when he was helping kind of grow the international impact of Focus on the Family, he was in another country and he shared about how, I'll bet some of what we create and some of the ideas that we have, I'll bet that might be of interest to families here in this country. And the woman looked at him and said, "Isn't it like you Americans to think that maybe you invented the family? Because like we've had families as long as you." And so his heart was to say the principles are applicable. And she was saying, "Yes, that's very obvious, isn't it? Let's work together." And so we do have a pretty vibrant family ministry in many, many countries. Um, we truly are a global ministry. It's changed so much. Somebody recently told me if you catch yourself saying to your kids, especially your teens, "Hey, when I was your age, it was this way," you just have to stop because none of us were this age at this moment of time. Kids these days, with the power of the phone, with the power of so much there at their fingertips 24/7, they're leading a very different life than I did as kind of a happy go lucky 13-year-old who rode my bike to go hang out with my friends. It was just a different world. And so family challenges have only escalated since we started as a ministry in 1977. And that's a universal. I don't think it's unique to us as Americans. I think it's globally. The family is it's a foundational part of any civilization. It's a God ordained institution. When the family flourishes, culture tends to flourish. And we're seeing the continued degradation of the family. And I'm a man of faith. I see a spiritual element here. I think there's spiritual warfare for our families. And as our families are challenged, we see the reflections of those challenges in the culture at large. So we continue to work. We're happy warriors, if you will. We're not discouraged, but certainly there is a great need for people and families to be encouraged, to be equipped, to be inspired, and to be given some hope.
John Fuller, he's the co-host of Focus on the Family's daily broadcast. He's also vice president of the audio team there at Focus on the Family. When you look holistically at the way people engage with content now and technology, Are there people really going deep, or is it all surface level and that facade that social media and has created in the world?
Yeah, this is where, I've been in media for a long time, over 40 years. And the days are gone when you could just do a 2 hour show and people would listen in because that was what they had available to them. Now there's so many media options. And I think there's always going to be a need for good, deep conversations. And I think we do well to continue creating that kind of content. We have to recognize that maybe the net that we use to bring people to that long form content, that those are reels, those are memes, those are Instagram stories, those are any number of things that we do out there to kind of shine the light on the bigger elevated story. So I think it's a both and. Um, I'm a long form guy. I like it. I've learned that we need the short form, and we have younger people on staff who do that that know how to connect. And as I watch my own kids, they're they're listening to some podcasts that are pretty long. They can go there, but I think a lot of people in the culture, and my youngest would be an example of that. He's 22 and he just spends his time kind of doing the scroll. And if he's in his room and I hear him kind of listening to something, and then he listens to something else, and he listens to something, you know what happens. So you got to make that sticky content that grabs. But I think at the end of the day, if we're not offering meat, people get tired of that. They just go on to the next glazed donut. We want to give them something significant and substantial because that's where life happens. It doesn't happen with the frosting, it happens with the entree. That's a
The
bad metaphor. Maybe I'm hungry.
No, it's a good I've got a couple of pieces of steak and broccoli on different sides of my plate right now in my mind, so I totally get it as far as the differences there. When you think about the different types of audiences you can create now, right? Because there's so much data, I'm sure, for you guys to be able to investigate and look at, and how long are people here? What's the demo and all this kind of stuff. But when you go back to the faith-based concept of holistically, right? Just everyone, people with a heart for the Lord, right? And that being what it's ultimately about. How do you find balance in that, right? Because you want to talk to everybody,
Well,
but there's different life
yeah, yeah,
tracks.
and Justin, we're struggling that with it a little bit for our organization because just a little while ago today, I heard a coworker describing one of the challenges that we have, which is let's say we want to encourage a single mom, and she hears a show that we do about single parenting and comes to our website, or she does a search and Google or AI drives her to our website. Well, she gets there and she finds something, and sometimes our content isn't very well organized, and she might get lost in the weeds and say, this, never mind, there's something else, right? Or she might want to go deeper with us, but not be able to figure out where, or we took her off site to a different website for a resource. And how do we get her back? So these are these are concepts that we're struggling with in a world of so much media and so many different things. And increasingly, the platforms are saying, no, you have to stay here. Facebook has a deal now where if you link outside of Facebook, you're going to get penalized. They want you to play in the Facebook space. Well, how do we make content for Facebook that serves that single mom, that gives her the additional help that we have? Because for almost 49 years now, we've been doing this. We got so much good stuff to help people. How do we super serve that audience? It's not about making money, but it's about knowing who that audience is and then making sure that we're seamless and integrated and holistic with our content and our resources. It's a challenge these days. I think you probably feel that as much as I do.
You could say any piece of content that's faith based is evangelistic in nature, but there's the discipleship factor, right? That it seems like Focus on the Family really leans into, right? Going deep, not necessarily just on narrow on the surface. When you think of audio in the way that it is in comparison with like events in the community, are you guys looking at it as, hey, we need to be kind of in people's lives, not just the first touch of their life, if you would, if that makes sense?
Absolutely. We have this kind of mentality that our funnel is media, and we do films, we do events, we do a variety of things. But the big funnel is that ongoing presence of our radio and podcasts, and our YouTube presence, and some of those other mass media things. Social media is a little more nichified, right? I mean, they're doing the algorithm is connecting people with your content, and those algorithms actually are pretty effective. We've seen on some of our testing that When we buy ads to bring people to our content, actually YouTube's algorithm is more effective at bringing the right people to the content. So we look at this kind of net that we cast out far and wide to bring people in. But at the end of the day, yeah, we want to do events. We want to have people engaging with us. We want to do life together, basically. And we have a brand new thing, relatively brand new, that's been developed called Age and Stage e-newsletter. I mean, it's a clunky name. We got to figure something better out there, but it's essentially saying, hey, if you're a parent, sign up, tell us, the month and year of your kid's birth, and we will send you a packet, kind of an intro packet. That's what it means to have a 4-year-old. This is what it means to have a 9-year-old. And a 12-year-old is right into the cusp of being a teen. So this is what it's going to look like. And then for those 3 kids, you're going to get weekly emails saying, this is something you might consider to be an intentional parent this week. This is what your child might be dealing with. This might be an issue. This might be something they're hearing at school. And so we want to just kind of be drip irrigation to that parent so we can do the life journey with you from whatever age that child is now into adulthood. And we have, as I said, almost 5 decades of resources. So that Age and Stage newsletter, it's a free thing. We're just trying to get content and help out to people of faith. And I think it's going to be a game changer for people when they see it's not just we're talking to them, but we're doing life with them.
John Fuller of focusonthefamily.com. The status of like the church, the body of believers right now. You guys have a lot of relationships as well in that realm, both nationally and internationally. How would you describe like the current status of the church, if you would?
Whew. Um, that's a tough one. Certainly, church attendance is something that has been down for the last number of years. We're starting to see a little bit of a resurgence among younger people as they yearn for something bigger and deeper, kind of what you were saying earlier, Justin. So I think there's a lot of room for the church to have impact. At the end of the day, it's going to be we have to roll up our sleeves and represent Christ in a winsome, loving way. Doesn't mean we're soft on truth, but there's a world of opportunities for the church to work together within a body and with other bodies to say, we're people of faith, we follow Jesus. He says we should be doing this. So we're doing this. We're helping the poor, we're helping the homeless, we're helping the mothers, the single moms who have nobody in their corner. We're helping the foster kids who have nobody. We're helping restore families because as we do that, light and life enters into the broader community. But it has to start with a strong believer who says, I'm going to plug into a church. And so we've got a pastor's ministry that we've kind of rebooted for many, many years. The Reverend H.B. London reached out. He traveled millions of miles to encourage pastors. He passed away a number of years ago, and we've rebooted the ministry. It's called the Focused Pastor, and it's a rich website. We just had a pastors event here at the website. We're offering pastors getaways at our marriage retreat centers. There's a lot going on because we believe, just like the family, that the church is an ordained institution, and the local church can be the lifeblood of ministry and gospel.
Right now, just across the world, and whether faith based or not, the numbers show it that there's the largest generational transition like happening right now, right? Like a bunch of, and let me say it, I guess, in a way that I hope I'm not offending. I'm not saying you're old or anything. There's a lot of people getting old
I'm a
right now,
boomer.
right? Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
lot of people getting
I'm.
old. Is that affecting you all at all, or do you see that? Is that on the radar in any relevant port of a conversation, or what's that like for you guys?
Oh, sure, getting old's hard. No, I
I
like
can't
to
eat
think that I'm
pancakes the
young
same
at
anymore,
heart.
John. I can't eat pancakes
So
the same. So that's
I've got kids, and they're in their 20s and 30s, and I love them. Their world is just so different. Kind of going back to what you said earlier, and I think we do well. And I love being part of a smaller church. It used to be a big church, now it's a small church. In our smaller church, it really is intergenerational. We have a 96-year-old missionary who's still doing missionary work. 96. We've got others in their 70s and 80s, very vibrant people of ministry, people of deep faith, and then we've got some kids. We've got some kids we watch grow up who are having kids, and together we're trying to be a local body of Christ on mission for Jesus, being the hands and feet of Jesus in the community, and we're trying to do things together. I think that's where the richness is for the coming generation is, hey, embrace us, make fun of us as you will. That's okay. We can lean into our boomerism, if you will, but let's do some things together. I have some experience. I have some time and money that you don't. I have some insights and wisdom that might be of help to you. Let's figure out what it looks like for us to commingle and to come together and to do something like our church does, a stay at home, if you will, week long. We call it Mission Survivor, a kids ministry for a week where the junior high kids go out and do missions in our community. They sleep at the church. They don't bathe. They eat, bad food. We treat them to a missionary experience without the cost of going someplace. And they learn how to be kind for Jesus. They learn how to serve for Jesus. And us old people, we fund it, and the young people do it. And the kind of the 30, 40 kids, if you will, they're running that. So there's an intergenerational example of how we can be a connected body, and then we can do that with churches across the world in all sorts of cool ways through media and through common interests. I think there's some really cool things on the horizon for the church if we'll step up and be people of faith who are people of integrity and authentic.
If you could get, I asked for two pieces of advice. One, if you went back to when you were courting or first got married, your wife, what you would tell potential new husbands, and then we'll say same for those just becoming dads. We'll say or have recently just
Okay.
become. If you could go back
Yeah.
to the beginning, what would those two pieces of advice be?
Well, this is not spiritual. It's not going to sound spiritual at first, but I lucked out. Okay. What I've learned is the heart that I saw in my wife, her her heart and passion for God, her questions, her hard questions about things of the faith, those were attractive qualities. And I'm so fortunate that 40 plus years later, she's still that person. So look for the heart and figure out what's the trajectory possibility here. Because the heart that you are dating, the heart that you're seeing, the heart that maybe you said yes to, that needs to be fostered, encouraged, valued, lifted up, and celebrated. So do that. And for dads, my advice is don't look at the here and now so much as 18, 20 years from now. In 18 or 20 years, you're going to have an adult child. What's the relationship going to be like then? Right now, you've got to plan and work toward that relationship. So show up, be intentional, do the best you can. Kids are going to forget a lot of your mistakes. And hopefully, at the end of the day, you'll be able to have a great conversation with your adult kids, like I enjoyed with one of my kids on the way into work today. We had a 20-minute conversation. She's doing great. She's got challenges. We all do, but it was a great conversation. I'm so glad I can do that with my adult kids. But the beginnings of those conversations were 20, 25 years ago.
John Fuller, Vice President of the audio team at Focus on the Family, also co host of Focus on the Family's daily broadcast, and a couple other things you do throughout the day. I don't have time to list it, but I'm so grateful for the time. I just appreciate you being willing to chat and appreciate everything that y'all are doing for the Lord and the mission. And I can only imagine the things that you see. And again, my heart goes out to y'all for just being even able to be in the room with some of those stories of real people.
It's as I said earlier, I've been very privileged. I don't take it lightly that I get to spend 150, 200 days a year in the studio with people who have great stories. Most of these people are connected to God in such incredible ways. And I'll leave your audience just with a reminder that God's invitation is for you to live with Him. And when you grab onto His hand and you follow His path, it's richly rewarding. So thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit, and may the Lord bless you in your work.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. So it's, again, what an honor to meet you and appreciate the time and would love to connect again. I've never been to Colorado, but hey, if I ever come, I know who to call. So
You come out here, you could do your show from our
I
studios.
love that idea. Absolutely. I hear it's gorgeous out there. Thank you, John. I hope
It
you have a
is
great
very
rest of your
nice.
day and weekend.
Thank you so much.